Welcome to What's Your Story? Have I got a story for you? June is Pride Month in the United States and also in many places around the world. It's a time for our LGBT plus brothers and sisters to celebrate and fully embrace who they are. It is, in fact, a celebration of love. I want you to think about that for a moment. Whatever your attitudes may be, however you may feel, whether you are out of the closet or just coming out, whether you don't really know how you feel about our LGBT brothers and sisters, I want you to think about the fact that June is the month that they celebrate love. Powerful human emotion. Just think about that for a moment. I'd like to start tonight with a question. Why shouldn't you be proud of who and what you were born to be? Why? Why shouldn't you be proud that you're Italian? Why shouldn't you be proud that you're Polish? Why shouldn't you be proud that you're African American? Why shouldn't you be proud that you're Irish? Why shouldn't you be proud of what you were born to be? Why? What gives another person the right to deny you your birthright of respect, human dignity, compassion, and love? I want to get a little personal here for you so that you can understand, as they say, where it is I'm coming from. My birthday present from America was the vile, brutal, repugnant system of racial hatred, legal segregation, and unrelenting terror at the hands of my sick fellow white citizens. I wondered, what had I or millions of my fellow African Americans had done in order to be treated this way? The answer was nothing. We were born with black skin. That's it. I want you to think about that for a moment. You were born into a system that taught people to hate you simply because of the color of your skin. None of us chose that we were going to be conceived. None of us chose to whom we were going to be born. None of us chose the time of our birth or the place of our birth. And none of us chose the color of our skins. Why should the color of my skin condemn me at birth? Why? Much of my childhood was stolen from me by signs stating, "For whites only." It sickens me to think of it now, but I've seen pictures where the murderous lynchings of people with my skin color were family events where people held picnics with their children to witness this shamefully disgusting spectacle. Constant suppression, brutality, and murder were tools used to keep me in my place, subservient to people with white skin. My world was filled with fear, anger, and rejection. It is undeniable that some things have changed, but bigotry, hatred, and prejudice are still deeply ingrained in the American psyche. The purveyors of hate are still among us, spreading their deadly virus of intolerance. Have you ever wondered why our world is in the state it's in terms of human relations? Have you ever really sat down, thought about why there's racial intolerance, why there's homophobia, why hatred is so much a part of our daily lives? Where did that hatred come from? Where? Why couldn't that hatred be replaced with love, compassion, and understanding? I truly admit that I didn't escape prejudice. I grew up in a home with black people who taught me to hate white people. And I was supposed to hate white people because white people hated me. There was no other reason. That was it. The brutal segregation forced upon me as a child, the signs stating for whites only, the water fountains that I couldn't drink out of as a young boy, the swimming pools I couldn't swim in because of the color of my skin, the second-rate education I was bound to receive because of the color of my skin, the economic slavery and stagnation that was so much a part of my existence were all the result of bigotry and prejudice simply because of the color of my skin. My father's character meant nothing. My mother's character meant nothing. In fact, they as human beings meant nothing because they were born with the wrong color of skin. I was raised, boy was I raised, spare the rod, spoil the child. There are those of you out there who know what I'm talking about. I was raised in a Bible-thumping Christian family. Almost everything was a sin. My sister was born into that family. My family knew early in her life that my sister was, quote, different from normal females. They were embarrassed at who my sister really was and who they know she really was. My sister and I were raised with the same intolerant, Bible-thumping Christian principles. We didn't have orgies in our home. Yes, my family members drank, sometimes to an excess, but there were no drugs in our home. We were not murderers, rapists, or thieves. We tried to exist under a system that oppressed us and crushed us, both physically and psychologically, every day. Satan didn't steal into my sister's bedroom in the middle of the night and converted her to be a lesbian. My sister was born that way. And so I ask you again, why shouldn't my sister, who's gone on to heaven now, why shouldn't she have been proud of who she was? Why? Who gave someone else the right to attack and ridicule and scorn her simply because she was what she was born to be? My family knew that my sister was gay even before I knew what being gay meant. She was born to be exactly what she was, a child of God, a loving sister, a supportive daughter, a blessing to the human family, a God-fearing woman with a heart of gold, whose only crime was that she was a lesbian. In my home, God, my home, where so much begins for all of us, where we learn what we learn, how we're going to react to the world, how we view ourselves, and how we view others. In my Bible-thumping Christian home, where Sundays, you knew Sunday morning was church time. You were going to get up, you were going to get that bath, they were going to put your Buster Browns on you, grease your face up with Vaseline, and put your Sunday best on you, and put 2 nickels in your pocket so you could put 1 in the plate each time the plate came around. And we went to the church. And back then it was packed. Women wearing all sorts of beautifully outlandish hats and white gloves. The preacher preaching himself into exhaustion. The choir singing their hearts out to God. But something wasn't right there. They didn't talk about those people. They didn't acknowledge those people, just like many whites didn't acknowledge those people who happened to be black. I grew to understand that while the intent of giving me a religious background was good, much of it was corrupted, unholy, and wrong. I loved my sister. I will always love my sister. My family taught me that God created everything. He created the stars, the moon, the sun, all the fishes in the sea. He created you, and he created me. And yet there are people who would have you believe that when it came to homosexuals, that's where God drew the line. Can't go there. Really? 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 Do you think for one moment that because you're heterosexual, that God loves you one bit more than he does our LGBT plus people? Do you think that? Do you believe you are somehow more holy and on the right track to heaven because of your sexual orientation? Do you believe that? I'm straight. Those people are not. I was told that God did not make mistakes, that God was perfect in every way. And I saw the treatment my sister received from the religious, family members. I saw it. I witnessed it. And it was wrong. It was wrong then, and it would be wrong now. Two wrongs don't make a right. They don't. Whether it was fear or shame, I don't know what motivated them, but what they did was wrong. What the preacher preached was wrong. What my community felt and tried to teach me to feel about those people, they were wrong. They were wrong. God does not make mistakes. No, he doesn't. And if God didn't make our LGBT plus brothers and sisters, who did? Who did? If God didn't do it, who did? God didn't make mistakes. No, he didn't. And my LGBT plus brothers and sisters were never mistakes, not then or now. That was a lie. The American Psychiatric Association didn't change their professional opinion on homosexuality until 1972. That's when they decided homosexuality was not a mental illness. The American Psychiatric Association was wrong all those years. It was a lie. There was nothing wrong with my LGBT plus brothers and sisters. We were the problem. Us self-righteous, God-fearing, queer-hating people. We were wrong. And we still are. I'm aware of the biblical condemnation of homosexuality in Leviticus. Paul even talked about it in the New Testament. I'm aware of that. But I'm also aware of what the greatest commandment is, as taught to us by our Lord and Master, Jesus Christ. The greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love. Don't tell me that Jesus didn't witness homosexuality 2,000 years ago when he walked this earth. Don't tell me that. And yet he never spoke out against them. He never condemned them. Neither will I. And neither should you. There are those who profit the belief that people are not born homosexual. They say it is a chosen, degenerate lifestyle. I say to those people who profit that belief, no child is born into this world filled with hate. When you become an adult, you must choose that lifestyle to hate. You weren't born hating people. Presumably, you were created through an act of love, not hate. And I tell you this, my viewers, I would choose two people loving each other any day as opposed to people hating each other for 1 minute. I'm not going to hate anybody. And I'm going to speak out against prejudice, homophobia, injustice, domestic violence. I'm going to speak out against those things because it is right that I do so. I am a Christian of my own volition. Nobody gave me an ultimatum. I chose to follow Jesus Christ. That's what floats my boat. I'm going to try to bring love into this hate-filled world. I'm going to try to bring joy into this sad world. I'm going to try to bring understanding, tolerance, and brotherhood into this world as I pass along this journey. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to leave the hatred to others. I'm going to move on past those who choose to destroy, and I'm going to try to build. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah, there are those of you who say, oh, well, here you go again, Jim, preaching at people. Yeah, that's true. Maybe there's a latent preacher living inside of me, some kind of place. But I challenge you tonight to sit back and ask yourself, where did your hatred come from? Who gave it to you? And why have you decided to hold on to it? I choose to stand with apostles of love as opposed to joining the disciples of hate. That's a choice you can make too. I salute and celebrate my LGBT brothers and sisters. I love them, and I would hope they can love me. And I'm not unmindful of the fact that racial prejudice and bigotry exists in the LGBT plus community. I'm not unmindful of that. But I see hope in the fact that people are finding the courage to come out of the closets, which they should never have been in the first place, to assert with pride who they are. And I remind you, all of you, that the virus of hate is no match for the vaccine of love. I remind you of that. President Harry Truman once said, "The buck stops here." He was talking about the fact that when difficult decisions get to him, all the other easy ones have been made. I want to paraphrase the president tonight, and I want to hold this up for you to see. The bigotry stops here. It stops with me, and you can stop it with you. I invite you to join those who love, as opposed to locking arms with those who hate. That is my show for tonight. Thank you for listening. Everybody has a story. What's yours? Until next time, I'm James Ransom Reed, Jr.